Good evening, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Wanted to get on and talk to everybody about your trust in transportation. And if you notice by the title of the post, of the video, it says transportation of trust, or trust of transportation, something in contract. And then it talks about Psalms 121 verse 8, and that says specifically, "Thy Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and even forevermore." This is your ability to transport yourself in any way. Now, in that particular verse, it doesn't say anything about the land or the air or the water. It just says the going out and the coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. Now, we know we have dominion over the land. We know we're supposed to have dominion over the air. And we know we're supposed to have dominion over the water. And yet, we're being rejected in that sense in all three jurisdictions. So I wanted to talk about the trust in transportation and how it works. Because that's where it all starts. Transportation is a transfer from port to port, known through the process of import and export. And this is the whole thing about transportation in all senses, whether it be marine, air, or land. So we of course start out with the transportation code here to help explain everything. You can see we're at Title 49, Transportation, Subtitle 2, Other Government Agencies. And that's what we're talking about, is other government agencies in relation to transportation. And it has to do with the National Transportation Safety Board. So it's a matter about insurance, other government agencies in relation to transportation, imports and exports. It says general organization, and as we go down, it tells us the organization, appointment of members, terms of office and removal, chairman and vice chairman, duties and powers of chairman, quorum, and then it talks about those other government agencies. G. And we see here it says offices, bureaus, and divisions. The board shall establish offices necessary to carry out this chapter, including an office to investigate and report, import, export, transport, on the safe transportation of hazardous material. Did you know the words you speak is a hazardous material? The words you write on a piece of paper could be hazardous material. You yourself as a body inflicting some kind of physical violence or harm or damage could be hazardous material. It's a very ambiguous thing, and I'm going to show you how this transportation works in regards to hazardous material, insurance, and providing liability. As we go on further, it says The board shall establish distinct and appropriately staffed bureaus, divisions, or offices to investigate and report on accidents. Accidents involving each of the following modes of transportation. This is blue line highlighted, so we're going to take a look at that. Accident, as defined in 49 U.S.C. 1101, accident, section 2101, subsection 23 of Title 46, and section 4102A of this title apply to this chapter. In this chapter, the term accident includes, so therefore excludes everything else, damage to or destruction of vehicles in surface or air transportation or pipelines, regardless of whether the initiating event is accidental or otherwise, negligent, on purpose, whatever. So we've gone beyond accident now, because now it says regardless of whether the initiating event is accidental or otherwise. So the accident can be caused by a different event. Their definition of accident is entirely based on the original event of the import of information. Without that original that information being originally imported, this would not be subject to any acts, whether the initiating event is accidental or otherwise. So, accidents involving each of the following modes of transportation, basically what they're saying there is that anything that is subject to a claim, anything that is subject to a claim, an accident is synonymous with mistake. Mistake. They are taking things they are not supposed to. We clarify that mistake. I'm sure it was just an accident, but it did cause damage and destruction of vehicles in surface or air transportation or pipelines. Air transportation or pipelines. But those all involving each of the following modes of transportation include aviation, highway and motor vehicle, rail and track vehicle, pipeline and marine. So now we have water. We have a pipeline underground, or a pipeline in the air, or a pipeline through the water. A pipeline can be an underground railroad, an underground marineway, an underground tracked vehicle, subway, highway, motor vehicle, highway and motor vehicle, aviation, Title 23 of the U.S. Code, highways. Federal aid highways. So they are highways that are federally aided. They get grants. And the other highways are those other government agencies operating as foreign trade zones, keeping up their roads through those grants, their surface roads, their railroads, their railways, their subways, through the general provisions of highway safety, which is dependent upon transportation safety based on accidents, so they can research technology and educate for infrastructure finance purposes. It's all research, folks. They have to keep statistics. Okay, so that's the first one. That's 49.11.11, General Organization. Transportation, Title 49 of the U.S. Code 10709. Contracts. Remember, I told you everything is contract, and all contracts are trusts. Trusts. Interstate Transportation, Chapter 107, Rates. Subchapter, General Authority. Documents, papers, and records, and any copies thereof relating to a contract described in subsection A shall not be subject to mandatory disclosure requirements of 552 of Title V. This is in regards to publications, collection and publication of information. It's private information, people. You need to keep it that way. That's why you don't do the Freedom of Information request. You do the Privacy Act. Because any lawful contract between a rail carrier and one or more purchasers of rail service, and this is uniform with purchasers of air services and on-surface services, that was in effect October 1st, 1980, shall be considered a contract authorized by this section. A rail carrier, again, we're in the transportation, and they're talking about contracts for rail carriers. Means the Surface Transportation Board. Now we're talking by shippers. Obligations to the complainant under Section 11101 of this title. And it says Common Carrier Transportation Service and Rates. Interstate Transportation Operations Rail. Okay, so we've got those two covered. Rail, actually three covered. We got the rail and surface roads and the marine. Now this here goes to transportation, subtitle 7, aviation programs. Another government agency for air commerce and safety, economic regulations, air carrier certificates, general except as provided in this chapter or another law. And it goes down, it says an air carrier, and you can read all this, charter, air carrier, all this. But here is where it says through service and joint transportation. So the air service can provide joint transportation on water or on surface roads. And it goes on to say a citizen of the United States providing transportation in a state, providing transportation in a state, not in the air, not in the water, not on the water. So now we've gone from through service, air service, we're talking aviation. So it's an air service, air carrier. They're talking about air carriers, charter carrier, charter air transportation. Carrier synonymous with transportation. Carrier being synonymous with import-export. And it says, United States, a citizen of the United States providing transportation in a state of passengers or property as a common carrier for compensation with aircraft capable of carrying at least 30 passengers under authority granted by the appropriate state authority. Providing transportation in a state of passengers or property as a common carrier for compensation with aircraft means any contrivance invented, used, or designed to navigate or fly in the air, capable of carrying at least 30 passengers under authority granted by the appropriate state authority, may provide transportation for passengers and property that includes through service by the citizen over its routes. So the service may provide transportation for passengers and property that includes through service by the citizen over its routes in the state and in air transportation by an air carrier or foreign air carrier. Again, people, I tell you, you have the right to be your own postmaster. You have the right to be your own banker. You have the right to be your own court. You have the right to be your own everything. This here citizen is a citizen of the United States, an individual who is a citizen of the United States, a partnership. You're partnershipping with the aeronautical, aviation, and transportation and marines, each of whose partners is an individual who is a citizen of the United States. Each of whose partners is an individual who is a citizen of the United States. A corporation or association organized under the laws of the United States, or a state, the District of Columbia, or a territory or possession of the United States, of which the President and at least 2/3 of the Board of Directors and other managing officers are citizens of the United States, which is under the actual control of citizens of the United States, in which at least 75% of the voting interest is owned or controlled by persons that are citizens of the United States. The voting interest can only be held by registering. In other words, you pledge something to be a citizen of the United States. Subject to sections 41.309 and 42.11 of this title, may make an agreement with an air carrier or foreign air carrier to provide joint transportation. Cooperative agreements and requests. Mutual aid agreements. Proprietary or exclusive right not conferred. Pure and simple. That says everything right there. You really don't need to read any further. Proprietary or exclusive right not conferred. A certificate issued under this chapter does not confer a proprietary or exclusive right to use airspace No one has an exclusive right to airspace, period. Just like they have no exclusive right to land space, surface space, water space. Nobody has exclusive right to use any space except the space they are in, which is obviously unoccupied by another being or another thing. Any airway of the United States or an air navigation facility means facility available for use or designed for use in aid of air navigation, including a landing area. Everybody in the air jurisdiction needs land for a landing area. Anybody in the maritime jurisdiction needs land for a landing area. You suppose anybody can post anything in the air? Do you suppose anybody can post anything in the water? When we go to 49 U.S. Code 11101, Common Carrier Transportation Service and Rates. Remember, this one here we were referred to common carrier. State of passengers or property as a common carrier. So when we see common carrier, all of a sudden transportation goes from aeronautics or aviation to interstate transport. Okay? See how they did that? Through service and joint transportation as a common carrier. But again, it has to be for compensation, so there has to be a contract for common carrier transportation service and rates. The board shall, by regulation, establish rules to implement this section. When they are importing and exporting, they are acquisitioning things. And when we look under Title 48 of the Code of Federal Regulations 52.212-5, which is part of the, and I'll show it to you here, Federal Acquisitions Government contracts are subject to a multitude of regulations which govern acquisitions by executive branch agencies. Foremost among these is the Federal Acquisition Regulation, codified in Parts 1 through 53 of Title 48. Chapter 1 of the Code of Federal Regulations. So when we go to Title 48, 52.212-5, which is within that 1 through 53, it says, contract terms and conditions required to implement statutes or executive orders showing that they confer their executive orders to the statutes of the states, hyphen commercial items. Anytime anyone is seeking a commercial item, they are seeking to acquisition by an executive branch agency through a state government program, other government agency. It doesn't say other federal or state government agency. It just says other government agency. The states are subsidiary governments operating as subsidiary corporations. Okay. So we've got that down through joint transportation and implement. The regulation shall provide for immediate disclosure and dissemination of rates and services, including classifications, rules, and practices and their effective dates. Final regulation shall be adopted by the board not later than 180 days after January 1986, and the public law is right here. Public Law 104-88, comma, Title I, or I, Roman numeral I, Section 102, parenthesis, lowercase a, unparenthesis. Okay. Now, remember we were in transportation. We had Aeronautics and Space Aviation, Office of the Secretary, Department of Transportation, Aviation Proceedings. Filing requirements for adherence to Montreal Convention. Remember we were talking about insurance? That's what the Montreal Convention is. Okay? It's an agreement advising to international passengers on limitation of liability. This is a document with a docket. This is not an OMB. This is a U.S. Department of Transportation with a docket number. Okay? Montreal Convention. Warsaw Treaty Organization. This is the Montreal Convention. The Warsaw Pact was a military complement to the Council for Mutual Economic Assistance. Admiralty, military complement, maritime economic assistance. Let me see if I can find it here. No, I'll come back to it some other time. But you see what we're getting at here, people. It says all direct U.S. and foreign air carriers shall have and maintain in effect and on file in the department's docket. Department of Transportation. Okay? So when they require these guys to have a certificate, this is uniform with the requirement of a certificate of title by somebody that's traveling on the land, being presumed as a common carrier. That presumption of the common carrier in regards to the transportation title, like I've explained a couple times, is for federal tax purposes. And that's listed in the title in Title 26 of the Code of Federal Regulations under Motor Vehicle Operators Lease Agreement, wherein you get a certificate of title, you're supposed to provide insurance and a contract providing all the details of the identification, the rates, and all of that. If you don't have that, then you don't have a valid contract. The certification is false. And that's what needs to be corrected. Pure and simple. They don't have any right proprietary or exclusive right not conferred. They have no right in any of those jurisdictions. None. And realize one of those transportation jurisdictions is in fact the telecommunications code. They are in fact importing, exporting, transporting, reporting information. It is a transportation system. Let me show you guys something. Every system that they use, all those other government agencies, all of those, they're just different systems. We can all agree on that. They're just different systems of keeping records. Or they're systems of different agencies that keep different records. But they're still all just different systems in different manners and this and that. I'm sure everybody can agree on that. If you don't, say something. Let's discuss this. Check that out, folks. System. 1610s. The whole creation. The universe. From Latin. Systema. An arrangement. An order. Remember in the beginning of the video I spoke about order. System. Organized. Other government organizations. Organized whole. A whole. Compounded of parts. From stem. And the stem always comes from the root. The root stem. System. System. Hold on, folks. Maybe it was Hebrew. No? Well, anyway, we see that system is the whole, it's the origin, it's the root. And so we've got to get back to the root of everything, and that's that. Is that certification true? Is it false? Is there actually a contract that is valid and in play? Because according to the general organization, that contract has to be in regards to marine, pipeline, rail and track vehicles, highway and motor vehicles, aviation. And these are all done under the transportation code. What's the difference between highway and transportation? Like I said, it's import and export. They are transporting, and depending upon the reports. All the Cathys out there reporting their neighbors because they're, oh my God, they're not wearing a mask. I'm out walking my dog without a leash. Shitting in public and not cleaning it up. Oh my God. What kind of information are you reporting? Do you know why you're reporting it? You're just babbling back what they're telling you because you believe what they're telling you. Oh my God, he's not wearing a mask. He's supposed to wear a mask. I'm going to tell on him. Fucking stupid. Certification is false. Excuse me, did you get a certificate of a doctorate degree to practice medicine? So are you practicing medicine? Or are you perfecting medicine? Have you perfected medicine? Are you fulfilling medicine? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Medicine. Medicine. C-I-E or C-I-N-E. Simple, in its simplest term, means movement. And medi, as we all should comprehend, is the source of medium, middle. You know, the doctor's the middleman. The doctor's the one you need to get rid of. The certification is false. Well, what do you mean the certification is false? The man who's healthy doesn't need a doctor. So why would he be subject to a doctor's rule while the doctor's practicing? And then that rule that the doctor's practicing is somehow extended through some governor. I don't know that he's got a license to practice law or medicine. And he's saying that there's some sort of contract in play that says I'm subject to his medical practices that he can convey then and therefore through other commercial entities. You're spewing babble that somebody else spewed at you because you believe it and you don't know the truth. Certification's false. Show me where the certification's true. Is there a true and valid contract where I signed a statement under penalty and perjury separate from the certification? Is there a contract and agreement upon the terms and conditions of pay and wages and income and taxes and all that? Not in regards to transportation. It's for federal tax purposes. And that's all they want you or that's all you really need to realize. If it's for taxation purposes, then what are you doing? It's an instrumentality of the government, and the instrumentality of government is supposedly non-taxable. There's some more babble for you. So, anyway, I'm done stretching this out anymore. I did want to talk to you guys about that. I'm going to be coming back and doing another video in regards to perjury and stuff. So we'll be back a little bit later on that. In the meantime, I'll post my other forum links. I do have a MeWe link now, so that'll be in there as well. Please hit and share that PayPal link, as well as all the other information, all the videos and everything I put out. Share, share, share. In the meantime, remember, if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be doing this. God bless. Love you. Bye-bye.